Hello world, my name is Sima and today I'll tell you the differences between SHMON and the differences between word quarantine. Quarantine could be as a cell where you spend 1 week or two when you just came to detention center, and it's a small cell where you used to get to the idea where you get to, and while you're staying there, the administration is checking your health and if you're ill or not, if you have any diseases or not. And then after being assigned to a shared cell, the hierarchy for newcomers is considered to be quarantine for the first 6 months. So second type of quarantine is the quarantine is you. So in my cell there were 6 months, but in other cell there were other periods for the quarantine. So in other words, you mean nothing in the cell, you sleep on the floor, you dry your laundry in the smoking room, and use a crumbling refrigerator. But there are exceptions, as was the case with me. In December 2015, I was assigned to a shared cell after the quarantine period. And for the new year, my mother ordered me a whole stuffed chicken from the paid menu I told you in my early video. And the hierarchy is such that there are two refrigerators. One is really old, I found the photo, the same was in my cell, and second one is new, and of course in the new one all the products belong to the people who are staying in the detention for a long time. They call long seated. And imagine my surprise when the senior of my cell, she's inmate too, said that my products were now in the new refrigerator. She said that at night, already strange, at night she decided, okay, I wasn't a roadie on that time and I was sleeping all night long, and who were on roadies, and the senior of cell, they had a really interesting time at night, so they didn't sleep, and she decided at night to move me to a better refrigerator. Already strange, yeah, isn't it? But I was still naive, and I thought maybe she wanted cigarettes from me or products from me, and I didn't give it much thought. So now I need to give you an understanding of the difference between searches. As you remember, they are called SHMON, and there can be two types of SHMON. First one can be done at any time by the detention facility staff without warning us. And second one, the most terrible SHMON, are arranged by employees of Federal Penitentiary Service. This is done not only to check us for brogues, phones, roads, and whatever, all prohibited items, but also to check how well the administration of the institution copes with its duties. And that's why the administration itself warns seniors of the cell that, for example, from December 20 to December 30, in one of these days, there will be an inspection by the Federal Penitentiary Service. And these days, everyone who has a phone hides it in the most unimaginable and incredible ways. I'll tell you about them in another video. And while we were waiting for this grand SHMON, I wondered why we needed a corridor supervisor, because it was my turn. If you remember, corridor supervisor assigned every day by alphabetical order, and this supervisor at morning and evening tells the number of people that everything is fine, and we go for a walk. And why we need this supervisor if we have a senior of cell? And nobody could answer me. We just made a joke about it and went to sleep. And another day I just was a supervisor, and it didn't take a long time to get an answer, because after I said that everything is fine and we will go for a walk, the administration said that today is the day when we are waiting for this grand SHMON. So imagine more than 100 employees of the Federal Penitentiary Service entering the territory of the detention center, and we saw that we saw that by window. We were watching from window that so many caustic concentration of blue. Even if you have no anything to hide, you become stressed because so many policemen and they will search. It's really a stressful situation. And when there is a SHMON, everyone comes out of the cell and they're searched by hand and metal detector. So you go out from the cell, put your hands on the wall, and a woman who is working there, she is searching by hands, and then she takes metal detector and search by metal detector. And that's why you can't put, for example, phone in yourself, because there will be metal detector for sure. And after this checking, everyone is taken to the common cage, which located in every floor. If you remember, there is an assembly on the first floor, and this cage is it's not so big, and that's why you are staying in a real small place, like 60 people in one cage, and there are no benches, and that's why if you can squatting, it's a good use for you to squatting, because you can spend a lot of time there while they search in your cell. And in fact, everyone going except the senior. She stays in the cell to explain something, but not only to explain, she in fact she has to by possible and impossible ways take search away from the hiding places where the hiding prohibitions are. And not this time, because the chief search officer from the FCIA said that according to the rules of this institution, the one who is on duty in the corridor today must stay in cell, which is me. And can you imagine, I've only been in the main cell for a couple of weeks, know nothing, cry at meetings over stolen sausage, and have absolutely no idea how to talk to this cop. And I need to somehow steer them away from stash places. And for sure, I was like a baby, in this hierarchy, and I even couldn't speak with them because I really don't like police, and I can't even speak with them. And what about to steer them away from stash places? And the senior of myself, she understood it and tried to explain this to person in charge, but he was unbowed and said that I had to stay with them, and everyone, other inmates, has to go to that cage, and I'll stay with so many policemen, So, okay, around 30 people in blue uniforms entered the cell and started blow everything. By blowing, I mean they searched everywhere. Not even bags, bags, that's simple and common. They searched in mattresses, in pillows, and even in lamps. And at that time, I was in the bathroom with the head of the Federal Penitentiary Service, who said that I have to stay in the cell. And he was also searching for contraband and asking me about charges and where we had hide the forbidden items. I assured him that we didn't have any items, that we're normal room, and room, in Russian I say room, but in fact cell, But as soon as I said that we have no any forbidden items, he found some homemade alcohol, which called brogues, yeah, in the trash. Someone decided to hide the brogue in trash, and of course he found it. And for these people, I mean for the people who work in such institution, it means that if it's just a sign for them that if there is an alcohol, there are probably other forbidden items as well. And I continued to assure him that there were no more, but he was relentless and led us to the kitchen. Everyone's food was in plastic bag, and he used the metal detector on each one. He just took every pocket, used metal detector, and when it came to my food bag, I immediately told that it was mine, and I vouched for it, and everything is fine with it. And then this time the metal detector beeped. While he was unwrapping my food bag, I assured him that it was a stuffed chicken and that there might be a foil inside or something metal there could be, because it couldn't be contraband, because it's my bag and I'm just here for 2-3 weeks, and which contraband you are talking about. So however, he found the phone inside the kitchen, no sorry, the chicken, and at that moment my mind was filled with all sorts of thoughts. But I told to this FSIN worker that those who distribute food must have put it there, because I have no idea how it could be, because I just didn't catch the idea of this movement from old refrigerator to new one, because I was really stressed, and I thought that my mom bought the stuff, and maybe the staff put a phone there. So he said to go to this cage where all inmates were, and call for a senior of the cell. And I was in real shock. I was, I was shocked so much, because I understood that now I am going to have a real lot of troubles. I could be put in solitary confinement, and all I could manage to tell when I get to the cage and saw the senior, that the chicken beeped, and she didn't understand, because I couldn't say anything, I just said her name. I said, Anya, chicken is beeping. And it sounds so funny for her. She started to laugh, but it wasn't funny at all. This words, just chicken beeping, is funny, yeah? But in fact, I could have so many problems from this beeping, chicken beeped, and she needed to come to the cell to understood what happened. And when we returned to the cell, the head, that man who searched, he asked her where the phone came from, and she said that she doesn't know. And at that time, it seemed to me that before they were exploding things, I thought. But then, after this phrase that she doesn't know, a real hurricane had started. It's just started. They specifically threw everything into one pile, including cosmetics and other things, because can you imagine 60 people? They have so many things, and they just put them in one pile, and it took us a long time to find out our things after this SHMON. And afterward, we laughed about this story about beeping, chicken beeped, and it was funny. But I will never forget the colossal stress it caused. And after this story, the senior of the cell understood that I'm a normal person who won't, just screaming about which phone is that? It's your phone. Why you say you doesn't know? I just keep it in mind that the person is such a two faces, and I didn't say anything to police, and that's why I jumped in this hierarchy and could dry my laundry in a normal place. Yeah, and that's how it went. But I will never forget this day, and I know that it happened for a reason. I just asked one day before for what this corridor supervisor are, and the situation came. And after that, I decided not to ask the universe about any questions, because if you ask any questions, everything happened just right now, and that's why I'm still sweating while I'm telling you this story, because it was a real nervous day. But everything happened, ended well, and I really appreciate that nothing happened with my characteristic on that time. With my characteristic, there were a lot of bad things, but it would be for my movements, and I'll tell you in my next videos. Stay in touch. See ya. Bye.